Welcome back. This next story is about what we value. Not financial value, but the hidden calculations we make every day about what people deserve, including ourselves. As you watch and listen, I'd like you to notice which fragments of experiences your own mind retrieves to justify those judgments.
It feels nice sometimes to be the object of everyone's attention. When you win an award, get noticed for being able to dance, wear a pretty dress, or enter the first-class lounge, you feel like you matter. When I was about 6, a magician at a neighbor's birthday party picked me for a trick. I felt very special because everyone was looking at me. He asked me to place a balloon into a box, closed it, and burst it. A terrified rabbit jumped into my arms, and the magician said I could keep it. So I walked home down the beach carrying this shaking, broken little thing. At first, my mother told me to take it back, but I was so distressed, and he was so tiny, with torn ears, infected eyes, and still trembling from shock, that she stayed up all night feeding him carrot juice with a syringe to keep him alive. We called him Oscar. He lived with us, sometimes in a large hutch outside, sometimes inside the house with our 4 Irish setters. He'd hide in the arch of my back while I did my homework, or sit in the cup of my head with his body flopped across my arm, snuggled into my tummy. I carried him like that everywhere. He couldn't run free because a fish eagle would have had him in seconds. His rotten start in life meant he was often ill. But our local vet, Dr. Fazil, whose clinic treated everything from spiders to crocodiles, adored him. When Oscar broke his leg, Fazil said it would need to be amputated, but my mother refused. He said, "If you won't have a 3-legged rabbit, Mrs. Grimwood, then I will," and cast the leg instead. It healed, but a few years later, Oscar developed an enlarged testicle almost half his body size, which had to be removed. He got quite depressed afterwards, though. We think the surgery triggered some kind of old trauma in him. Some days he wouldn't even move. So we got him a lady friend who we called Sonia. She'd been rescued from a local nature trail that bred rabbits for snake food. For 5 years, they lived in a palace-sized hutch my father built in the garden. Then one day I heard squeaking and Sonia was sitting in a pile of fur with 4 babies. In weeks, though, we had 17 rabbits, so we separated Oscar, but Sonia kept producing, which meant she'd started mating with her sons. A neighbor with a park-sized garden adopted the children, and Sonia was spayed. I've always wondered whether it took Oscar so long to make a move because he'd lived too long with the setters and didn't realize he was a rabbit, or whether Sonia just thought he was too runty to bother with and that she deserved better. My introduction to the film industry was spending several months writing my dissertation under Jack Foley. Jack had been head of distribution at Miramax and was a legend. He turned impossible art films like Il Postino and Pulp Fiction into hits using a platform release strategy. Start small in art house theaters. build word of mouth, then expand. He told me he knew Il Postino would be a success when he overheard a woman in an upscale store say, "Once I got over the fact I had to read the whole thing, I actually really loved it." Jack said the secret was to make people feel special. If you love this film, you're cultured. You're cool. Everyone wants to feel that. That's how the hype built. I adored Jack and demographics. But one day I got carried away and suggested we could write films specifically for each audience based on data. Jack looked at me like I'd farted in church, which is a moment I treasure. Because I'd learned from Jack, I got an assistant job at Miramax, which was unheard of for a foreigner straight out of university. I worked in everything from production to distribution. It was brutal, 80 hours a week, but I felt very lucky because I was at the pulsing heart of the industry. I was always scared of Harvey Weinstein, though. We didn't know yet that he had raped people. But my bosses kept me away from him anyway. One of my earliest encounters with him was during a sticky summer, carrying film canisters around Manhattan. I was sweating. The whole city was sweating. The marble floors had just been polished in the Brill building, but I was running because time was money. I saw the elevator doors about to close with someone in it, and I yelled, "Hold it." Because of the weight of the reels, though, I slipped, sliding face first into Harvey Weinstein's chest. If I'd known then what I know now, it would have felt like a scene from one of our Dimension horror films. But the truth is, Harvey wasn't just a man who raped women. He took chances on beautiful films no one else would. He kept City of God playing at the Angelica for ages so people who loved movies could watch it on a big screen. So how did he get to be the way he was and do such horrible things? His brother Bob, who ran Dimension Films, was all business, quiet, serious. Harvey was large, visibly scarred by cystic acne, disfigured, and often called a monster to his face. Also, the trials revealed a more private disfigurement, and society is often unkind to people who look like Harvey. Add the ego of being a firstborn, the trauma of adolescence, the cult of power, and you have a recipe. I'm not saying it's an excuse, but perhaps an explanation. Maybe. When I visited Ethiopia, I was shocked at the gender roles among the poor. Women were hunched over carrying the firewood while their husbands cycled beside them. There were huts with 2 floors. And our guide said women and livestock below, men above. Our guide at Lalibela then told me that the Church of St. George was built by men during the day and angels at night. Those angels, I said, were probably just women working double time in the dark. But those poor Ethiopian women didn't become terrorists. Why? The worst terrorists, the ones you see on television, don't seem to come from extreme poverty. They're not all rich or middle class, but they're generally men with some power and a sense of entitlement. But who still feel denied something? Perhaps entitlement plus trauma is a dangerous mix. I remember feeling horrified watching the torture and death of Gaddafi replayed over and over on television. My father said, "Darling heart, some people need to see this. You don't know everything that man did." He was right. But it still haunted me. I later read that Gaddafi was bullied horribly as a child for being poorer than his classmates. Maybe all of this, Harvey, Gaddafi, and the worst of human cruelty, is just a twisted echo of that original desire to be special, to feel like you matter. And yet the question remains, what do we think we deserve? What do we believe we're entitled to? And what are we willing to do to others to get it?
My next story is about the formation of a worldview